So, this is going to be more sitting thoughts than driving thoughts, because if you've listened to the latest Binge Buddies, I was not able to join. I was a little disappointed because we were talking about Zack Snyder's Justice League, the 4-hour, 4-chapter symposium of, his vision for Justice League that wasn't fulfilled the first go-around. If I remember right, the history behind the first go-around was he had a tragic loss in the family, which caused him the need to depart from this movie. And they brought in Joss Whedon as a stand-in in order to sort of take what had been finished and rework it in something palatable for the studio and something that was more mass audience. The end result was that it turned out to be very Marvel-y, and not in a good way. Sort of all the laziest parts, the quippy Marvel stuff, the weirdly bright and chipper kind of pieces to the puzzle that he added, the yes ma'am with the weird beard censoring, the weird thing about him Superman showing up at the end and then being so tonally different than the portrayal that Zack Snyder started with. And so a big part of what I want to talk about today, is tone. Tone in movies. I think sometimes it's a little understated. Excuse me. I think it's a little bit underappreciated how important tone is when it comes to storytelling. And when it comes to the kind of world building that these comic book movies and cinematic universes are trying to achieve. One thing that was consistent when it came to Man of Steel and Batman vs. Superman and a lot of the other DECU films is that, one, they are a shade darker and tone and color muted than their contemporaries. It made sense for Batman. Man of Steel, I know, was a little bit divisive when it came to how they portrayed Superman. A lot of people, I think, prefer the Truth, Justice, and American Way kind of bright and chipper and aspirational hero part of it. That is exhibited in the new movie, which I haven't seen, but I know a lot of people like. I really liked how they portrayed Superman in Man of Steel. I like how his origin story is shown, the kind of conflict that they have with the character. It humanizes him in a way that I think if he was just sort of a happy-go-lucky guy, instead of struggling with the foundation of who he was and how he's supposed to live his life as an orphan of Krypton and an adopted child of Earth. And I think the seriousness of the stakes and have it be these warmongering colonists trying to take over the planet and him defending his adopted planet. It was a really important structure to start with. And then I think Batman vs. Superman did the perfect thing of really melding together these two things while keeping their distinct character. And so you had the dark and brooding Batman experience, and they showed that kind of jaded, old, I'm sick of this shit mindset that Ben Affleck was able to really successfully pull off, while also juxtaposing Clark Kent's and Superman's lifestyle and how it impacted and how they intertwined together. And it made sense. I know there are quibbles about Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. I know that there's some qualms sometimes about maybe story structure or some of the turn of events that happened, but it's a really solid film. And where they went astray with the first crack at Justice League is they misunderstood, or at least Joss Whedon could not take that Marvel template and have it fit cohesively in the same world. All flat characters. Even Batman, Superman, which they clearly honed. Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. They clearly honed in on those three the most, but even then, it seemed like the whole cast and the whole experience was in service of those two characters. Three, if you count Wonder Woman, although in that movie, she was kind of relegated to eye candy and a little bit of here and there. This is one of those cases where runtime matters in the opposite way of what I prefer. I mean that in terms of, I hate long movies. The only long movie that I'm really fine with is Lord of the Rings, and it's the extended edition, and we watch it in chunks in my family because you can treat it as a long miniseries at that point. But it fleshes out the world, it provides context that the theatrical release doesn't. And it's clear from this version of Justice League that Zack Snyder's wings were clipped pretty badly through all this. Because what you end up with is the fleshing out and having a full picture of what this world and what these characters are. And much like Batman versus Superman, they are all brought together in this cohesive grouping, but they all keep their distinct characters. One of the complaints I had about the first Justice League is the same complaint I had about sort of the Marvel formula, especially when it comes to Avengers. They have flattened the structure of these movies, and it's a common Marvel complaint that I won't go too deep into, but the real failure of some of these Avengers movies, or at least how they're characterized, is that they take all these characters and they fit them into a mold of what they perceive that the Avengers should be. And it removes the distinctiveness of each of the characters and the part of the world that they come from. And that's why Justice League worked so well with Zack Snyder's input and his direction for that, because he retains the individuality of those characters while also melding it together. It's almost like a spot weld, you know. They're two distinct pieces, but they've got this merge point. Whereas the Avengers is more like taking a bunch of raw plastic, melting it into a pot until it's one consistency, and it loses something in all that. The other important thing is all these individual characters have fully fleshed out stories. Cyborg had almost nothing in the first revision. The Flash was there for jokes and nothing else. Wonder Woman was eye candy, and then Superman was the MacGuffin where they just needed him to show up and be saved, and then he gets to be all chipper happy-go-lucky for some reason at the end, despite recovering from being dead and then having to reintegrate into this world. And that's another great thing about this version, is that they give enough time to breathe so that they can show Clark Kent, Superman's resurrection, being confused and lost and angry and not understanding things, and then Lois Lane being there not just as a tool to then wake him up, but they show in this version that like he's slowly remembering things. She's the one thing that tethers him to this world, really, and it's within the context of their relationship that he rebuilds the pieces in his mind of what things are happening and what he needs to do. And she was a person. She was a person that drew him in. It wasn't just a situation where Batman says, oh, she's the key, and he uses her. And I really like that. I really like that they've got that character developed. She's not just a satellite to be used. Cyborg's story in its totality is meaningful and gut-wrenching, and seeing him evolve into this amazing fighter, and then having the desire to help others instead of just sort of being towed along, is a lot more interesting. They deal with the whole like robot versus humanity thing a lot better in this too. And man, the Flash, they do so much better justice to that character. You know, he has a story arc, and it ties together with his father's jail story in a way that actually makes sense. You know, even in his attempts to what do you call it, time force or whatever, rewinding time wise, and he's monologuing to himself about, what he can be or what he chooses to be. There's just a lot more heart in it. He's not this flat joke character to move around with. All that to say, I've rambled on for 10 minutes now, and I think, and this is probably not too dissimilar from my hosts, I haven't listened to the episode, I think this is the definitive way to watch this movie. Watch it in chunks. They have it broken down by specific chapters that are meaningful stop and start points, and you can put it down and pick it back up an hour at a time. Give yourself the opportunity to try it out. I think if you have not watched it and you were soured by the original version, and you see the intent and artistry and depth of what he was going for in the original intent, you'll see that this was a situation where we could have had an extended DCEU beyond what we had. There were the foundations, the bricks were being laid for something bigger. And it's probably a case, again, where the studio decided the train needed to keep running. They poisoned the water for everybody else. And then beyond that, it was such a weird mix mash of quality between the other movies that it tanked it. And so they lost all their momentum, and now they're starting from square one again. I wish James Gunn and all the DC fans the best of luck with his new revision. I probably will not join you, and it is because it's clear I should have been here when Zack Snyder was at the helm. Anyway, if you liked or disliked my comments and want to tell me why I'm smart or stupid, feel free to like, comment, subscribe to this channel. See me every week on Binge Buddies when I don't have a life event preventing that, and then we'll see you on the flip side.